Welcome to the Disney Parks Podcast with your hosts, Tony Casanova from DisneyByTheNumbers.com and Krista Joy from DisneyWays.com. Keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the podcast at all times. And get ready for the Disney Parks Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We have a very special guest on the line to share with you something very important, a little bit different and off topic for us here at the Disney Parks Podcast, but we're so excited to share. Scott Schwartz, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
We're great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good. And will you just introduce yourself and let everybody know you're super famous and important, so I want everybody to know all the things that you've done in your career and how awesome you are.
Super famous? Well, thank you. I mean, I guess I do have something in common with Walt. We both have a bronze statue, but I was a former child actor, and I was in movies like The Toy and A Christmas Story. And I did other movies, Kidco and Fear with Frank Stallone and other fun things, but most of the stuff I did was as a kid. So, even though I didn't get a chance to work for the Walt Disney Company, he has certainly had a lot of child stars who did work for him.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, Tony, you had the next question, right?
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about your charity organization, Minor Consideration, Scotty?
Sure. A Minor Consideration was started by Paul Peterson, who was one of the child stars on the Donna Reed show, and it was approximately 27 years ago. And basically how it got started was there were a lot of child stars who were in trouble, had troubles, and one of his good friends decided to, unfortunately, end his life early. And Paul really just took it to heart and started this organization that helps former child stars. I've heard about it for years. And we've got over 100 members, and it's a group of former child stars. What we do is we help. You know, there are actors in need. I say kids. When I say kids, I mean, they could be 20, they could be 55. It doesn't matter. Financial aid, rehab centers. They need help with home services, homing unto itself. They need places to go, places to live, food to eat, and they reach out to us. We have 30 doctors in the Los Angeles area who give free services to our members. There's like 30 attorneys in the Los Angeles area who give our members free services. It's an organization that it's not built from anything but love, and myself, going through the year and generation that I went through, I say it this way. It sounds terrible, but I'm tired of burying my friends. I'm tired of not being able to lend a helping hand. Corey Haim and Dana Plato and Gary Coleman and, Jonathan Brandis and, River Phoenix. I don't want to see any more of those stories. I want to see more better stories about old child stars who moved on to do different things with their lives.
Yeah, you make an interesting point that, unfortunately, we never hear that side of those stories, Scotty. We usually hear when these child actors get in trouble, but we never hear the good things that they go on to do, once they're adults or, moved on to, bigger and better things in their lives. So maybe that's the news, but...
Yeah, part of the news is if we don't have bad news, we don't have any news.
Right.
And it's like, no, wait, there's a lot of good news. Yeah. There are a lot of great examples of child stars. We all know Jodie Foster, and we know Ron Howard. How about Glenn Scarpelli from One Day at a Time,
right,
who runs a TV station in Arizona? Yeah. James, I'll give you a great name, James Bond III. He was the kid in the movie The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh with Julius Erving. And he did some other work as a child, and he runs a station in Colorado. They both remain in the industry and have done good things, and yet you don't hear about them.
Yeah.
The kids from the Waltons all went on to do different things. Allison is a writer, And Mary McDonough is a mom, and she's done, wonderful things with her life that people don't hear about. Of course, we know Alyssa Milano is the face of the NFL and in the women's clothing line. There's a lot of good stories, but we want to have more of them.
Now, does the organization also help educate parents on, hey, your kid's doing this now, this is not going to last forever, save his money or their money, and this is
up until about 6 months ago, really, it's that new. Paul was really doing this himself. He really, hadn't reached out to other members to sort of form a better organization, a different kind of organization. In putting myself in the position of being the president, I'm a good speaker, and I'm not afraid to say it the way it is, and I'm good at telling it like it is. I want to help kids. I want to educate parents. There's other kids in the organization that want to do motivational speaking, to speak to groups of kids, either in New York, Boston, Chicago, L.A., Orlando, doesn't matter, about the good, the bad, the ugly, the pitfalls. Watch your money. Get a good accountant. We are on the cusp of just really broadening a minor consideration to that level.
Well, and there's a lot of people are under a misconception that there's laws protecting the child actors. And can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Everybody, or most people in the industry, they know the Coogan law, which is to put a certain amount of a child's money away. And everybody goes, oh, the Coogan law, of course. And yet the Coogan law is only enforced in a handful of states. It's not a nationwide law. Most people think it is, but it's not. I think it's New York, Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and California, I think. I think those are the states that enforce it. The other states don't. They just kind of want you to do the right thing, but they don't enforce it. Child labor laws. There are states that have no child labor laws, believe it or not. Back in the 30s, Hollywood actually got the United States government to do an exemption for child actors, that they're exempt from a lot of labor laws. And that's actually still on the books today. You're seeing it with the reality shows. Television is what it is at this point. We can't go back. We can only go forward, but we have to make it better. There's a lot of, most all of the reality shows that are not shot in those few states, they get paid nothing. Like Honey Boo Boo and John Kate Plus 8. Those kids got paid zero, nothing. The parents got paid, and the children get paid nothing. Yeah. These are things that need to change.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know, so like the Coogan's law, does it matter where the money is earned or where the actor lives that the law takes place? So if I'm acting in California but I live in, Wyoming, does that matter?
It really matters where you shoot the project.
Okay.
Like, I'll give you an example. Even though I did Kidco, was one of the films I did in Arizona. A Christmas Story was shot in Cleveland, Ohio, and Canada. The Toy was shot in East Baton Rouge, Louisiana. None of those states had any laws for any Coogan anything. If you shoot in California, you're under California law. You shoot in New York, same thing.
I think a well-educated actor and parent is probably goes a long way, because I think without the knowledge you can't make the right decisions for your family.
Agreed. What happens is most parents are not educated in this subject.
Yeah.
You have kids that come from, when I say, nowhere, I don't mean nowhere, but
right.
You're from Ohio, Indiana, Texas, and your kid does a couple commercials, and all of a sudden your kid has gotten them a movie. Oh, my goodness. Well, that doesn't make a parent educated just because their kid gets something.
Right.
And there's nobody up until now who's been there to say, hey, you need to know what's going on. And it's not being a stage parent. There's a difference between a parent who's a stage mom or dad and somebody who's educated.
Right.
I've had this conversation a few times with one of the kids who's on a Disney show, as a matter of fact, out here in California. And I had this conversation with his mom. And she said, here's the thing. We only shoot the show for X number of hours per week, but then we do promotional stuff for the show. And because it's not actual shooting, these labor laws in California don't apply. So they'll have a kid doing 4 and 5 hours a day of promotion. They do get paid for that time, but it's not covered under child labor laws. So they could have a kid working 14, 15 hours a day, including promotional things.
Wow. I always hear of, stories, I'm going to go back because I'm an old man. The Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family, when they tell these stories on television about how great it was to work on TV, they talk about how they, were schooled, part of the day, and then they acted part of the day, and it was a giant happy family. Is there any truth to what they're saying now, Scotty? Because now I'm kind of doubting some of that.
You're talking two different eras, two different genres.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say genres, but you're talking two different eras. The difference is, back then, what did you have? I'll ask you the question real quick. Where did you grow up?
In New Jersey.
Okay, perfect. I grew up in New Jersey, so we both know the same thing. We had channels 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13.
Correct.
That's what we had.
Yep.
You only had a certain amount of media you had to answer to. You had the Daily News. You had the Courier News in New Jersey.
Yeah.
You had the Newark Star Ledger.
Right.
These little things, and it took 5 and 10 minutes. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye now. And that was it. Now you have thousands of media outlets. And when you're on a show, especially, you have to reach out to every single station across the country. You have to do the morning show in Green Bay. And you have to do the morning show in Detroit, Michigan.
Right.
You have to do all of these shows because you're promoting your product that's a nationwide product. And they want to see you. And the money is different, the amount of pressures that are put upon actors, child celebrity, child stars, however you want to put it, child actors, much, much different than what it used to be. Where it used to be, you're shooting a show and it costs, $100,000 an episode. Wow, Right. And now you're on shows that cost $5 million an episode. Big, big difference in what goes on. We didn't have the TMZs. We didn't have, Inside Hollywood, Access Hollywood, Showbiz Today, and on and on and on. We didn't have that. So it was a much more simpler time for actors and child actors. Now it's an incredible amount of pressure that's put on everybody. Those kids, I was on plenty of sets and had plenty of fun. And today it's just not the same.
And you've run into a couple of really different situations. When we heard you speak at the Disneyana meeting, you spoke specifically about a couple of stories that were close to your heart and things that people would never imagine these child stars would go through as adults. Did you want to share a couple of the things that you've done just so people can be more aware specifically of what your charity does for people?
Well, a minor consideration feeds people. If people are in need and they can't have food, Paul gets them food. If somebody is in, they need to visit their family, their mother has had an accident or in the hospital, or a father or a brother, and, and they don't have the money. Some have asked, said, listen, I need a bus ticket from, Los Angeles to San Jose or San Francisco, or Dallas. I need to see my family. I'm in jail, DUI or drug this or whatever it is. Paul has been there for these people. And he's taken the little bit of funds that people have given over the years to our organization and used it wisely. He's not lined his pockets. Paul has probably spent a couple of $100,000 of his own money to help his compadres, our compadres, so to speak.
Yeah, because I think there's this misconception that when you see a child on TV, you just figure, oh, they're taken care of the rest of their life. And that's not necessarily the case. There's been some really difficult things that you guys have had, thank goodness you were there to help with. So,
listen, again, the money is different now. And if you become successful and you get something that lasts 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it can feed you for a long time. At the same time, there's other things that sort of come into play. Your publicity people, PR people, and they don't work for free. If you want to be on all the covers and your agents and managers say, oh, you got to be here and you got to be there and you've got to do this and you've got to do that, everything costs money. The best example I give is Freddie Munoz from Malcolm in the Middle. He earned something in the vicinity of $8 or $9 or $10 million shooting Malcolm in the Middle, and the show was off the air for not too many years after that, then it's gone. The money is gone. He was going to go into race car driving, and he was going to do something else, and just made bad choices. But he was probably spending between $5,000 and $10,000 a month on PR people.
Right.
Absorbent amount of money to pay people to make sure that you're the guy when they go to AOL Entertainment News, you're the first picture they see. The Entertainment Weekly magazine, you have to have that article in there, or you have to be on that cover. Pay these people a lot of money to do the job, and if you're popular enough, you're going to get those covers, and you're going to get to that red carpet. People see red carpets, and we all kind of laugh, Oh, look at this one. He's at the red carpet. Oh, look at that one. Not even thinking in our head, oh, my God, that woman, she looks beautiful. Angelina Jolie or Cameron Diaz or whoever you want to pick. But they spent $10,000 on that dress. They spent $1,000 on their shoes. We don't think about that stuff, but that's the reality of it.
Absolutely.
Child stars are no different. We gotta walk. We gotta have a suit on, or we gotta be well dressed. And it's the hair people, the nail people. Got to get a pedicure. Got to get a manicure. Got to get this. It's a weird position to be in at such a young age, but for the job that they do, that's where they are.
So let's talk a little bit about you. So you were probably in 2 iconic movies that probably everybody would know you from. So what was your experience like being a child actor doing movies, back then?
I had a blast. Are you kidding? I was extremely fortunate. I'm one of the few that I can say I had a blast, have no regrets, other than maybe I didn't move to California young enough. That's about it. I did The Toy with Richard Pryor, Jackie Gleason, Ned Beatty, Richard Donner, Ray Stark, Wilfred Hyde White, Teresa Ganzel. I mean, we had an incredible cast, shot in Louisiana for 4 months, and had an absolute blast. I had one bad day of filming the first day out. After that, it was all good and just took off from there. And I was taken care of. When I say taken care of, in a mental state, by Richard Pryor, believe it or not. He was my mentor, my muse, my everything. Would talk to me on a daily basis at the set, at the hotel, at dinner, wherever it was. He made life in those 4 months fantastic. And then, of course, I did a Christmas Story, which I only shot on it for 6 weeks, but I already done The Toy. So I already knew what to do, what to expect, how to do my job. And my job was a simple job. I only worked like 1 day a week. So A Christmas Story to me was like a paid vacation. Bob Clark, our director, fantastic. Just said to me, hey, run with it, do what you want, and if I don't like it, I'll tell you. That was pretty much my direction from Bob Clark.
Wow.
It was I had no scenes with Darren McGavin. I didn't really work with Melinda Dillon. She comes into the fight scene with Ralphie, and I'm off camera. so it's not like I'm standing there with her. So I worked with all the kids, and we were just a bunch of good old boys. You know, we just had a lot of fun. The other film I did at the time was called Kidco for 20th Century Fox. And David Niven Jr. and Frank Yablons were our producers. Ron Maxwell, who did a ton of things back then. Gettysburg, The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia. Hell of a good director. You know, again, it was right after I did the toy that I did Kidco. And, you know, we maybe had 2 meetings about sort of the character that I was playing. And beside that, it was, you know, just take off with it and run with it. Charlie Hallahan, who he's infamous for the movie The Thing with Kurt Russell. He's the big heavyset guy whose head comes off the table and grows the legs and runs away. He was my dad.
Wow.
He was my dad, and he was just wonderful to work with. You know, there was a scene in the film in a courtroom, and it was a long diatribe that I was supposed to just spew out. And I was getting stuck with it. There were certain parts of it, it wasn't flowing right. I couldn't get it. And I went over to Charlie and I said, hey, would you mind help me working on this, you know, for a day or two? He said, sure, come on over. His room was 2 doors down from me in the hotel. And we got through it, you know, and we made it flow and we made it work. So my experiences in front of the camera on those films were nothing short of wonderful.
Yeah, and I know that you're still you have a very full and active life and career now. How can everybody follow you online and just see what you're up to, you know, lately? And also, how can they find Minor Consideration online as well? It's
actually, the easiest way is just to Google a Minor Consideration, because I think it's a minorchild.org.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely put a link in the show notes.
If you just do a Minor Consideration, you'll find it. You know, if you follow me, you know, you can, I mean, I have my own Facebook page, but that's more just for myself and friends and stuff like that. I'm not a Twitter guy, not yet. You know, if you jump on the Minor Considerations Facebook page, updates of what we're all doing on there. You know, there's a lot of things about a lot of people. Some people, oh my goodness, I forgot about that person. Well, there we are. Yeah. You've got something about Justin Bieber that Paul posted pretty recently too. I saw that on there. Just interesting stuff. So everybody needs to go check it out and just, you know, stay up to date with this wonderful charity. It's a great cause, and we hope that you'll help out. We'll definitely put a link in the show notes. And Scotty, I know you've got to get going. Thank you so much for your time tonight and just sharing with everybody. We really appreciate it. Oh, you're welcome. I mean, listen, you know, I'll do it anytime, and you know, any of the child actors out there who listen, or their parents, you know, notify the show, your situation. They'll get in touch with me. I'll contact you back. I'm a pretty open guy to communicate with people, because I understand there's a lot of people out there who just don't know we exist. You know, they just don't know about it. Like I said, Paul's done this on his own for a long time, and the baton is being passed. And we are much more vocal. We want to inform people. We want to tell you what your rights are. You know, if your child is tired and they just can't do something, don't worry about them being fired. You know, you tell a producer or you tell the PR people, hey, my child just can't do it today. My child is not feeling well, or it's just overworked, tired, whatever it is. You know, my thing is to tell a parent, remember, you are the parent of that child. There is no director, producer, or studio who is the parent of that child. You are always the boss.
It's a good point.
Very important. Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for sharing. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you in the parks.
The Disney Parks Podcast is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company. All Disney parks, attractions, lands, shows, event names, etc. are registered trademarks of the Walt Disney Company.
Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. One Your dreams